Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a get ready with me using the Too Faced Natural Eyes palette. So I picked this up at the 21 Days of Beauty Ulta sale and it was half off. So it is a beautiful, gorgeous palette. I actually put it back in the box to show you guys how pretty the packaging is. So if you want to see how this palette performs, just keep watching. We are going to go in with the Lancome Skin Feels Good tinted moisturizer. This is or hydrating tint, whatever you want to call it. This is a really great one-step product. It is very glowy, so typically I would go in with just like my illuminating base first and then go ahead and put my foundation over top of it. Today I am just going to be using just the Lancome hydrating skin tint. This is in the shade Nude Vanilla, and I'm just going to go ahead and pump one full pump onto my foundation brush. I've actually been using it mostly with my fingertips, but I tried it with a brush the other day and I really enjoyed the way it applied. And I also have quite a few breakouts going on right now, so I'm going to show you guys how I still use a skin tint to keep my makeup looking natural, but at the same time I cover all my blemishes. So I'm going to show you how to achieve that today. So even though I'm using a hydrating skin tint, I can still build it up to like a medium coverage with this one while also spot concealing to make sure I get a more full coverage look. So I'm just going to go back in and spot conceal all the little blemishes I have on my face. I find that when I use an illuminating primer underneath this, it gets too shiny throughout the day. So it's already a pretty glowy, shiny product on its own. So I like to go in, I'm gonna use one more pump here. I like to go in with a powder over top of it just to set the areas where I would normally get a little more oily. I don't have to do that with all foundations, but with this one, it does tend to get a little shiny throughout the day. So if you're somebody who's really oily, I would try to kind of combat that with like a matte primer or going in with a matte powder afterwards. But this foundation does feel really nice on the skin, like it's really kind of cooling and hydrating, and it's really light and thin. Like it doesn't feel heavy at all on the skin. And I really like the way it applies with a brush. I think it applies even better with a brush. There are some foundations I like to use my fingers with because it warms up the product a little bit more and makes it easier to apply. With this, I don't have to warm it up. It's already thin enough and like blendable enough that I don't have to worry about blending it with my fingers. The brush alone applies it really nicely. The only thing that kind of turns me off about this product is it has a weird scent to it. I'm sure it's one of their perfume scents, but I just don't really care for the scent. So if I can't say that I would repurchase it because I don't really care for the scent, although I do like the finish. I think I'll have to kind of use it a little bit more to see if I would repurchase it. But I will say there are other foundations that I like better, and foundations that don't have that weird scent to them. That's it for foundation. Now I'm going to go in with my IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye Concealer. This is their Eye Lift in a Tube. Love this concealer. I'm going to go in with the one end. It's the corrector. Just dot that right where I need a little bit more brightness and correcting. And I am going to go ahead and just pat that out with my finger. I like to blend this product, the corrector side, out with my finger. I think the product just goes a longer way if you use it with your finger. It's not getting like picked up by the brush. I like to tap it on my cheekbone out here just to add a little more brightness and kind of give a little base for the highlighter to stick to. That way it stands out a little bit more. Or if I'm not using a highlighter, putting concealer or a brightening corrector right there just kind of makes it look like your cheekbone's highlighted already without having to use a highlighter. Then I'm gonna go ahead and use that same concealer on the illuminating side and just wipe that right under here and dot it just on the areas I want a little bit more highlighted. And then I'm just gonna take my IT Cosmetics foundation brush and go in and blend that out. Now going into spot conceal, I'm going to use my Bare Minerals Bare Pro concealer. I like to take the concealer end of my brush and just wipe that on the tip of the concealer. And then I'm going to go in and just kind of dot that wherever I have little red spots. I love that concealer for spot concealing because it just blends so well and it just covers so nicely. It's definitely a full coverage concealer while still looking natural. So I'm going to go in and set my face now. This is the Bare Skin by Bare Minerals Mineral Veil, Perfecting Veil. So I have mine in the shade Light Medium. So I'm just taking a big fluffy brush, EcoTools fluffy brush, and just going to set all of the areas I would normally set. I do set this foundation a little bit more, especially when I want a little bit of a fuller coverage look. If you have breakouts and you need to cover a little bit more, a tinted powder will work best because it's going to give you just a little bit more coverage while also setting your base and your concealer. And this foundation does tend to get a little shiny throughout the day, so that's why I like to set it a little bit more than I would normally set my face. For bronzer and blush today, I'm going to use my Hourglass palette. This is the Ghost Edit palette. They came out with this last year. They actually have a new palette available, and it's called the Sculpture palette. I already have a palette, so I'm not going to pick that one up, but if you're just getting into makeup, a palette is a really nice way to just try out a bunch of different products. You have it all in one, so it's a lot quicker in the morning, so you don't have to grab a ton of different products. So I really like to use this palette when I'm in a hurry as well. I'm going to dip into the bronzer, and I'm also going to dip into their little setting powder here. This is the Dim Light setting powder. It's a little darker, so I like to mix those as my bronzer. Hourglass Cosmetics has the most beautiful products. Their packaging is beautiful, their products are beautiful. And a palette like this is such a nice way to just try out a bunch of different products in one for a little bit cheaper. And let me say too that the Hourglass products, when you order those individually, they come with so much product in the pan that it's like nearly impossible to use up an entire one. So a palette like this with a bunch of minis in it is a great way to test out their products before committing to like a big fuller size product. And honestly, like I've had this palette for a year now, and I mean, like look how much I've used. I haven't used this every day, but I have used it a lot. Like there was a time during the summer I was using it every single day, and then I kind of revisit it here and there. Or if I'm in a hurry in the mornings, I do like to use this palette because I have everything here in one. So I can just grab one palette. I have my finishing powders, I have my bronzer, I have my blushes. So I really enjoy this palette for many reasons. And if you do not own an Hourglass palette or products, I would highly suggest jumping on their website now. They are having 20% off, and Sephora's VIB sale is actually coming up too. So Beauty Insiders get 10% off. Their Rogue and other whatever they are insiders, they get 20% off, I believe. So it is a good time to pick up products if you haven't been wanting to really commit to spending the money on them. It's a good way to try out products and get a little bit of a discount. I'd definitely go check out their palette they have. They come out with a new one every holiday season. Too, they had a palette like this with the 6 products in there, and it was called their Unlocked palette. Well, they came out with a new one that has the 6 products in there. It's called the Sculpture palette, but they also came out with a mini that has 4 products in there, and it's called their Unlocked palette as well. So they must have just came out with like the ones that were most popular, would be my guess. But that palette is back in stock. If you've tried it and loved it, I would get your hands on that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and dip into a little bit of blush here as well. Just pop that on the cheekbones and kind of up the bridge of the nose. I like to blend all my makeup into one to make it look a little more natural. I'm gonna do a little bit more of a done up look since I'm gonna be testing out that Too Faced Natural Eyes palette. I'm going to dip into this brighter setting powder here. This is the Hourglass setting powder in Diffused Light, and I'm just taking that on an e.l.f. angled highlighting brush. And for my highlighter, I'm just gonna go ahead and tap that on the cheekbones for just a nice subtle highlight. It just gives like a really nice natural glow. I like using this for the highlighter rather than their actual highlighter in the palette. I don't really care for the highlighter that came in that palette. So since we're doing a little bit more with eyeshadow today, I'm gonna take that Bare Pro concealer and just go right on my eyelids here and just kind of tap that out for a little bit of a primer. This concealer works really well for an eyeshadow primer as well. I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my brows real quick with my Maybelline Total Temptations eyebrow pencil. I did go in and set my eyebrows too with my Glossier Boy Brow. Now we are gonna get into the eyeshadow palette. So I actually have used this. I opened it already because I couldn't wait. I put it back in its packaging because it's so pretty and I wanted to show you guys how pretty the packaging is. So I did go ahead and put it back in. So it has been opened. I've only used it a couple times to kind of test it out, but today I'm going to show you guys what it looks like on camera. So it is so pretty, like it's so pretty and it feels so cool too. Like it's nicely textured and it's like really soft packaging, which is funny, I don't know, but I'm a sucker for packaging. It just looks so pretty. Nice gold case here, says Too Faced on the front. And when you open the palette, it is just such a pretty, gorgeous, like luxurious palette. Like it is just everything and more. So it's so pretty and pink. Like I love just looking at it. I love just seeing it in my drawer. And then when you open the palette, it has a really nice big mirror. This is what the eyeshadows look like in here. So super pretty. Like honestly, if I could be an eyeshadow palette, if I could create an eyeshadow palette, this is 100% the palette I would create. All the colors are in here are gorgeous. It's the perfect combination between matte and shimmery shades. So I love shimmery shades. I'm not a big fan of matte shades. I would rather wear shimmery shades on my eyes alone rather than matte shades alone. I just think it kind of dulls the eyes a little bit too much. So you have beautiful gold shades in here. You have beautiful brown shades in here. So these are exactly what I would want in a palette. So I'm gonna go in with my little fluffy brush here. I think this is like a crown brush I got like in a FabFitFun box or something like that. I'm just gonna take that white shade. I'm just putting that white shade all over the eyelid and up under the brow, just to kind of brighten that and give us a good base to set the eyeshadows on top of. This is a matte shade called Heaven. Seriously gorgeous. Like that's where like I don't typically wear a lot of eyeshadow. I always like have some kind of inner corner highlight. But when I saw this palette, because they came out with like that big giant natural eyes palette, right? And when I saw that they came out with a mini one, I was like, oh yeah, getting that one. Because in a big eyeshadow palette, like I honestly wouldn't use it, you know what I mean? Like I would probably use it a couple times or only use like 2 shades in it, you know? And so I didn't want to like buy the big one and waste. So I don't even know if they have that one honestly anymore. But when I saw that they came out with the Natural Eyes little palette like this, like I will seriously use every shade in here. Like love every shade in here. I'm sure I'll use some more than others, but I love the shades in here. I'm gonna go in with this Strip Poker color. This is also a matte color. I'm just gonna go in with my fluffy brush again and just use that as my transition shade all over the inner corner, or all over the crease and on the outer corner, and kind of just blend that out a little bit more to make it a little bit more dramatic. And honestly, on an everyday, this Strip Poker shade like would be just a perfect shade to just throw in the crease if you want like a little bit more of a done up look, and just put this on and do like an inner corner highlight and good to go. I take that transition shade as well, Strip Poker, and just put that under my lash line. I'm gonna go in with a little smaller fluffy brush, and I'm gonna take this shade down here called Cashmere Bunny. It's just a little bit darker than that Strip Poker shade, and I'm just gonna take that and just deepen my crease a little bit more, and bringing in that darker shade just almost all the way to the inner corner, not quite. We're just gonna try to keep like a light done up eyeshadow look today. I'm gonna try to take that and just do a little bit more of like a V shape. I'm gonna take a little bit more of that Cashmere Bunny shade on my fluffy brush again, and I'm just gonna kind of take that from the lash line, from the outer corner of the lash line, and kind of just try to match it up with that V to kind of deepen that a little bit more. I'm gonna take this gold shadow on just a flat Eco Tools eyeshadow brush and just dip into that. I'm also gonna mix it a little bit with this pink Silk Teddy shimmer shade, and I'm just gonna pop that on the eyelid over into that transition shade and on the inner corner. I like to have like the middle of my eyelid and the inner corner really bright, and I like to only deepen the outer corner of my eye just to make it kind of have a little bit more definition, you know? Same thing on the other side. And I'm just blending that up into the transition shade. And then I'm going to take my fluffy brush and go back over that to blend it even further so there's no harsh lines. And I'm going to just take that down and just kind of run that shimmery shade underneath the lash line as well to keep that nice and bright. I'm going to go in with that Silk Teddy shade, the big shimmery pink shade, and just run that under my eyebrow. Then I'm just dipping into that transition shade a little bit, and I'm just going to take this and just kind of make sure everything's all completely blended. I'm just gonna take the shade Push Up right here. It's a little bit more brown toned, kind of brown, pinky toned. I feel like that Cashmere Bunny shade was like a little too gray. So I'm gonna go in and just kind of warm that up a little bit. It was a little more cool tone than what I like. So I'm gonna go in with this warmer shade and kind of hope that fixes the look a little bit. I'm just not a fan of like cool toned products. So this is basically how you fix your eyeshadow if you kind of mess it up. So I'm gonna go back in with a little bit more of that gold honey pot shade and a little bit more of the Silk Teddy shade and just try to brighten my eyes up a little bit more with that now that I added a couple darker shades on top. So just try to brighten the look up a little bit more. I'm not a fan of really dark eyeshadow looks at all. I'm taking that and I'm blending those shimmer shades up into my inner crease right here on the inner eye and trying to focus that darker area on the outer. Okay, I think that's much better. I'm gonna take a little eyeliner brush and just to thicken my lashes a little bit, I'm gonna take the shade Sexpresso. It's a darker matte brown shade. I'm just going to tap the excess off and run that on my lash line. And just to fill those in a little bit. And just a little tip too, if you want to do like a winged liner with the eyeshadow, having an angled eyeshadow brush, eyeliner brush like this is really nice because you can get right there and get the angle you want. But I would highly recommend wetting your brush first before going in to try the winged liner, otherwise you won't get a very nice fine line. I'm not going to do that today because I don't have any water in front of me and I don't want to mess up the look any more than I already have. So okay guys, so that's it for the finished makeup look. So I really like how it turned out. I think that the Too Faced Natural Eyeshadow Palette is something that everybody can use. I think it's great for beginners, especially because the shades in there are so forgiving and so natural. And I seriously never do any fancy eyeshadow. Like, this is me just kind of winging it. And I think it turned out great. So if you're someone that doesn't like to wear eyeshadow much, or if you want to kind of try to get into eyeshadow, I think this palette is great for beginners. I think it's geared towards anybody and everybody. Super cute packaging. I love using this product just for the packaging, and the colors in here are beautiful. I think they're colors that everybody can use. So like I said, I don't hardly ever wear eyeshadow like this, so, and I was able to achieve a nice pretty look that's still pretty natural. So I wanted to give you guys a quick look in the natural light. This eyeshadow looks so pretty. The lighting in my room just didn't do it justice, so I really wanted to come out here and show you guys exactly what the eyeshadow looks in the natural light, and it looks really pretty. Like, I'm really impressed with this eyeshadow palette. It looks so good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you guys can see the eyeshadow in a little bit better lighting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!